Rusty said last week, he's like, well, maybe chat to see about some new faculty, and so Lisa and I were like, so.
Yeah, there's.
Then we asked Tiffany, you're dealing with Tiffany. Yeah, with URC. And then she told me your name and Ali, well, you saw the email, the other two people. The other person's on or?
See?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
new faculty.
Great. Okay, well, I'll welcome everyone. Thanks for either coming here to the presentation or being out there. We know your time is extremely valuable and appreciate you fitting us in. We also want to thank Dr. Lisa Kay, who's not with us, but she's faculty senate. It's kind of her and Rusty's brainchild, kind of put it together. So we did it twice last semester and twice maybe this semester. But snow comes later. But Dr. Winslow is filling in for Rusty. We appreciate that. He's going to be looking for questions in the Zoom room. So I'm Gus Benson, Director of the Office of Grants and Research Compliance, and my partner is
Lisa Royalty, I'm the Research Compliance Coordinator.
she's your best friend when you do IRB. She's our expert. She's excellent at her job, and so she helps you through all of this, what we're going to talk about. So again, most of this content's on our website. We think so. I don't know how much you know about the web. Everyone's shaking their heads. We know. It's been a journey, and it's obviously that we love you, Katie. But change stuff, especially when you're changing everyone's website. So ours is kind of, it's there. There's still out there, but just you can contact us at something, and you can blame me if I say something's wrong at this time, but it's not out there because we think it is a lot. Okay, so what do you think of when you hear someone talk about human subjects? Maybe you think about clinical drug trials done in a hospital setting, maybe you completed an online survey. But research of human subjects can range anywhere from a simple online anonymous survey to in-person interviews to blood draws for full-scale clinical trials. Of course, the most common question we get as an office is regarding to human subject research requirements is, do I need IRB approval? So have you all been through IRB at all? Maybe somewhere else? Or?
Somewhere else, yeah.
Okay, so you're pretty savvy. So in order to determine, this is kind of a 101. I didn't even say the title.
It's okay.
You saw the title. It's 101. It's to be or not to be. And that's what we're trying to determine if, here, please. Hi, Dr. Day. Thanks for coming. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
It is.
Oh, Meg loves.
Love it.
Oh, really? Oh, not me.
Not me either. Okay, so in order to determine whether a particular project requires prior approval, we need to look at the definition of two terms, and that's research and human subject. So what is research? Well, it's defined in the federal regs as a systematic investigation, including research, development, testing, and evaluation designed to develop or contribute to generalizable knowledge. Oh, yeah, they hear me? So, yeah. So let's break that down a little bit. A systematic investigation is an activity that involves prospective plan, incorporating data collection, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, and data analysis to answer a question. These investigations are designed to develop or contribute, again, to generalizable knowledge, as you all know, but that's kind of the key component that we're looking for when Lisa's first taking a look at this. So an activity undertaken in a classroom that's solely to earn a fourth grade, of course, is not considered research because it's not contributing to generalizable knowledge. The results will not be shared with, beyond the classroom that doesn't contribute. So, however, all thesis projects are research and are subject to the review process, obviously, if human subjects involved. So, we okay, man?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Let me know. Okay, second part of defining human subject research is defining a human subject. And looking at the definition, it's important to note first that human subjects are living individuals. So obviously, if research is being done on someone who's a deceased, the research is not governed by federal regs and the IRB. So that's good to know. You probably knew it. So the federal regs define a human subject as, see a long definition, a living individual, an investigator, whether professional or student, conducting research obtains information or biospecimens through intervention or interaction with the individual, or obtains, uses, studies, analyzes, or generates identifiable private information or identifiable biospecimens. So if we're using human subjects, and we just, that definition kind of said it, these are the three ways that a human subject can be involved in a study. And what's in that definition, you saw the three, but the first is intervention. Subject to collect data, so that could be a new instructional technique to evaluate its effectiveness or manipulate an individual's environment to observe the reaction. Second, the researcher collects data by interacting with the subject, so through an interview, through a survey, and that can be in person or online. And third, the researcher uses existing private information or biospecimens for research purposes. For example, course grades, medical records, blood sample. Any questions so far? Again, just chime in with questions. We're glad to be here in person so we can have a dialogue more than just, it's out on the web. A lot of the stuff you can learn on your own. Or obviously you can contact us anytime. Lisa's great. She answers all your questions. It's back to you so efficient. So, all right, let's spend a few minutes talking about what the IRB is, defining its role, and highlighting the important issues that the board must consider when it's evaluating human subject research studies. Okay, so at EKU, the IRB, most places, but at EKU, the IRB is made up of faculty representing a variety of research fields and one community member who is not affiliated with EKU. Just know that you can see the list of our committee out on the website. I'll tell you who that is. I don't know by heart, at least it might, but it's could come in handy sometime if you want to talk to somebody on the committee. I'm sure they wouldn't mind contacting them, but it's out there. It's a general knowledge. So, and just know this, that we're always looking for new members. Not always, but
We have three, I think, rolling off this.
okay, there you go. So we have 3 rolling off, and we have 2 people here.
Right on.
And one.
I've seen your name a lot.
Oh, really? Okay, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, anyway, it's a good way to, sort of like the URC, which we always tell folks, hey, maybe serve on that committee too, but serve on the IRB. Lisa does an unbelievable job. It's a great committee to be on. And so it's great work to do, and you can learn a lot about what's going on at the university and how to become better at IRB and that good stuff. So just let us know. We'd love to have you on there. Lisa and I every year kind of find the folks on the committees that we're in charge of. So let us know. Okay, federal regs require the appointment of an IRB that is responsible for overseeing the use of human subjects in research projects. Who knows what's going to change with the federal government day to day, not these days, but for right now, that's we have to do the IRB, whose mission is to ensure the safe and ethical conduct of research to protect the rights and welfare of human subjects. Now, the committee advocates for research subjects' rights, safety, and welfare. And of course, they have the authority to review, approve, require modifications to, or deny approval of research protocols. So let's talk about the key issues for the IRB member when they are reviewing these protocols. So this is more to know if you're putting one out there. This is what they're looking for. So the application needs to show the viewers that you understand how to conduct ethical research with human subjects. And for this reason, there is a training requirement. If you all have done IRB before, you probably know that, but we'll talk a lot more about the training here in a minute. They need to know what you intend to do with them. Okay, so who are your subjects and what will they be asked to do? What the risks and benefits are. There are risks to participants, gotta know, they're going to want to know that, but also benefits, right? If could be benefits to the participants or just in general, that this program is going to really do something great for the society as well. So how will you protect subject safety and privacy? Are your methods appropriate to protect your subjects from harm? And is your approach for collecting and storing research data appropriate to protect the confidentiality of your participants. And then finally, how you will ensure voluntary participation with informed consent. So is your consent process and form clear and appropriate to protect the rights of your subjects? Anything there, Michelle?
Not yet.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so once you know that your project involves human subjects research, your next step is to apply for approval through the IRB. Now, just if you don't remember anything else we said today, which I totally would understand, approval is always a prior requirement, and the IRB can never issue approval for procedures that have already been done. This has happened before.
Yes.
So just before you approach anybody to be part of a study, before you gain any access to existing data, you must apply and receive approval. So it's a bummer when it happens. but
Yeah,
it's-
this isn't all that data
all this.
collection.
it's perfect. Okay, let's spend the next few minutes talking about the steps in the submission process. Okay, so we got 5 sequential steps. First one is complete the training. We just mentioned that. That's city. We'll talk about that in depth in a minute. Classifying the research, we'll talk a lot more like this. So there's 3 classifications: exemption, expedited, full. Next, we prepare application materials, which could include protocol itself, materials, consent form, data collection instruments, etc. And then submit application materials online. Look at that in more depth, and then of course check email for correspondence. Talk some more about that. So the first step in the application process is completing online training. And just know that training is required for 2 reasons. It allows the IRB, once again, to ensure that investigators whose work they are approving have been trained in the protection of human subjects. And then secondly, very importantly, it allows the university to document compliance with federal regs, right? So very key, because if we're not, then we could be obviously shut down. We can't do it. That'd be a big hit to the university. All right, so like many other universities, EKU subscribes to the Collaborative Institutional Training Initiative. So again, that's part of our budget that we pay for that, and so it's out there. And so once you've completed the training, you'll have a better understanding of the regulations and levels of review. So a basic course is required for initial certification, and then a refresher course is required every 3 years after. And of course, everyone has, it's required, a basic course for principal investigators, key personnel, and faculty research advisors on students.
Does that include like honors thesis mentors?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
yeah, good question. Yeah, absolutely. We,
And then- yeah.
we did some training with some honors
Yeah.
folks a couple
Right.
weeks ago, but yeah, they.
Right, and also too, if you ever have any investigators that are not faculty or staff at EKU, just because they're
Mhm.
on the study, they can still complete the city training without having to pay a fee. They can just be considered affiliated with EKU because they're affiliated on the study. So if you ever have that in the future.
So like I have a friend that I collaborate with, and his university doesn't have a new city.
Oh.
They do like a comparable. If I like.
If you want to send me the list,
Yes.
because what it has to do is compare to our modules, so I can look and see if it compares.
It probably would.
But if not, they can go the route
Yeah,
of
they can
signing
go,
up and not having to pay anything to take it.
Great, good questions, thank you. So we have a city training guide out there on the web. I think.
Yes,
Yeah, good. And that will walk you through the process, setting up a new account, registering for the course, completing your coursework. So, and again, if you have a question, you can't find it, just let us know.
the thing that tends to happen is the system's not set up to prevent you from taking the refresher course prior to taking the basic. So a lot of students, I don't see it so much with faculty, might sign up to take the refresher course and they've got to go back and take this basic. So, you know, if you ever have any questions, your students have questions, am I taking the right course? Just let me know. I can go in the system and make sure that they're signed up with the correct course.
if you let your certification lapse, even if it's just for a couple months, can you still do the refresher or do you have to go all the way back?
So if your basic expires and it's been a year since you've taken the or the expiration of the basic, you can still go in and take the refresher.
Okay,
It'll be on your course menu that the refresher is due.
okay. And will that transfer across universities or
It should,
states?
yes, you're
Okay.
Great, thanks. Good question. Okay, so after completing training, the next step is to classify your research into one of three levels. We just mentioned those in review. But before we look at those levels, we need to consider the definition of minimal risk because the risk level is an important factor in the classification. So minimal risk, as defined in the Fed regulations, requires that the probability and magnitude of harm or discomfort anticipated in the research are not greater in and of themselves than those ordinarily encountered in daily life or during the performance of routine physical or psychological examinations or tests. So I know a little bit about that minimal risk, but that's a good thing to know to do this, and that's classified research. So first level is called limited review for exemption determination. Now that can be misleading because it doesn't mean that the Institutional Review Board does not need to review your study. It just means that they can use a limited review process to provide an exemption for you. And that allows your study to be exempt from certain federal requirements.
Like filing a final report, things like that.
This level of review is allowable for only specific defined categories of research activities and requires that the research represent not greater than minimal risk. Now, there are 6 categories, and Lisa and I keep going back and forth about this, but can we create a slide so you can see them? They're out there on our website, trust me. You're shaking your head, so maybe you've seen them. But at least talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah, it's just lengthy to go through every single category, but I will say that the most commonly used categories are category 1, which deals with research in an educational setting, not any new interventions or anything like that. So we typically see those, especially category 2, because that's dealing with your survey and interview techniques, as long as those aren't surveys or interviews with minors, because that cannot be exempt. And as well, we do see category 4 because that's dealing with secondary data analysis. So those are your typical exempt categories for exempt applications.
Perfect. Any questions on that? So that's the first one. Then the second one is expedited review. So like the exemption review classification, studies that can be reviewed through expedited procedures must represent not greater than minimal risk to the participants. And then all research activities must fall within the federal categories for expedited. And there are 7 of those. And again, listed on our website, and at least maybe what do we see there?
And I would say with those, I mean, you see categories 6 and 7, because again, that's dealing with interviews, procedures, and 6 is dealing with audio or visual or video recordings of those interviews. So we often see those 2 categories marked with expedited reviews.
Okay. Survey procedures with children may also be reviewed through the expedited review process, but only surveys of adults are eligible for exemption. So children can protect, even more protected class. Finally, we have full review. So when a project represents greater than minimal risk and involves activities that fall outside these other levels of review, or includes prisoners as subjects, it must be reviewed through a full review at a convenient meeting. And that's, of course, now the IRB is approving these other ones as we go along, but then the committee gets together for these at a full convened meeting. And then occasionally other projects may be referred to for full, right, Lisa? If one person's looking at it and they go, well, maybe.
Right, yeah, we've had that happen a few times.
Yeah.
It's rare.
It's rare. Prisoner research is a serious undertaking. The review of prisoner studies requires that a prisoner rep. Now, this is most for justice and safety folks, but it's happened before. So we have a prisoner rep that's appointed as a voting member on the board for that review. Examples of studies that require full review would include a study on prisoners' childhood experiences, or a study involving physical procedures that may, again, present greater than minimal risk to participants. Now, we we have about 3 to 5 of these a year.
Yeah.
So it's not of the overall 200 or so that we
Right.
have, so.
Most, we see exempt application.
Okay, so after you completed training, you classified your study, your next step is to complete the application materials and prepare documents that will be used in the study. And again, these are found on our website. So these documents include an application form. And again, that form is based on the review classification, right? So it's going to be one of the 3. As well as any recruitment materials, you've got consent forms, data collection forms. If you're conducting research off campus, a letter of support from the research facility is also required. So Lisa can help you with that as well. Anything else you want to add?
Well, with the request for waiver of informed consent documentation, that's the one that I see that maybe it's not included with the application a lot. I think there's some confusion there. With the informed consent form, if we will not have handwritten signatures on the form, the waiver has to be submitted with the application. So just keep that in mind if you're doing anything other than handwritten signatures. And still we request that the template be used that we have, but just remove those signature lines, and then your last paragraph will be edited to reflect how you plan to obtain.
Any questions on that? Do we have any in the chat room at all?
No,
Okay. We're just as clear as mud here, I tell you. All right, so after completing the required application components, you're gonna submit them online through our info ready review system. Now,
And that's still there. That's something that you can actually access.
right, but it's hard to find, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, we
with our new.
need to
compliance,
continue to
they
work with the web. Have you looked for it?
Yeah,
Oh, see there.
yeah.
And you've heard from people, I mean.
I just think it's hard to find that link. If you go to sponsored programs, you
sponsored
can easily
program.
see the link for info ready, but if you go to grants and research compliance, it's not really there anywhere that I can see.
Meeting, so
So,
we're working on that. But again, we're here all the.
yeah, I was gonna say,
let us
anything
know.
you
We'll-
find or can't find,
Yeah, please let us.
please
yeah.
reach out to me. I'm
Yeah.
happy to help.
And we're figuring out how to do the web request form, monitoring those folks. Y'all done that, some of that, but, anyway, we got some things to clean up, but it's out there and it's a pretty good system, so you're gonna just log in like you would any other time that you log in for Eastern. With your password and log in. And then you're gonna select the appropriate application based on the review level. So that screen will come up. And you pick whichever one you're doing. And then you complete the general information, you upload file attachments. And again, those attachments are done in a different place and you save them. And then read and accept the certification. But it's now, key to know, so notes, but when you submit an application to InfoReady, it's coming to Lisa.
Right.
And so Lisa, talk about that. What do you think?
Yeah, so the actual review process is all routed, even though it's done in info already, all of those notifications come through me, and I'm kind of this middle person who, if you submit a review, say your faculty advisor assigned to an application and you submit that review, whatever comments you leave, I'm going to then have to pull those and send those, through, email to the student. And I always make sure that I copy you and push those reviews through. So, but initially, when you submit an application, it comes to me. I'm gonna look for, say, all your city certifications are there. If you say checked off that a letter of support's there, I'm gonna look for that, those types of things, and just make sure everything's included before I accept it. And then once I accept it, I'm gonna push it through to if you're faculty or staff, I'm gonna push it through to the department chair. And then if it's a student, it's gotta go through faculty advisor, to any committee members listed on the application, then to the department chair. And then once it makes it through those rounds of review, it will be sent to an IRB committee member, and that's when the 2 weeks allotment of time for the review takes place. So it can actually take longer for review, depending on how long those initial reviews take. But yeah, it's all those comments along the way are just kind of routed out of the system via email through me.
Yeah, so when you're looking to initially apply, don't be concerned that you are missing. I mean, just go ahead and do it because it comes to Lisa first. It's not gonna go to chairs and she's gonna have to clean your mess up. But I'm kidding, but you know,
I mean, I make mistakes and miss
yeah.
things
yeah.
and.
But I'm just
we have so
saying,
many
some
eyes
people might not
along the
want to do
way.
it, right? Just because they're like, oh, where's this gonna go? And
Right.
it's gonna to Lisa
right.
first, safe space, be there to help you out.
Yeah, I always, try to push that to students because I know they're afraid that this
Yeah.
is a scary process.
Yeah, especially for
It's
students.
overwhelming. So
Right.
just let them know I'm there from the get-go. But yeah, and then also too, as we go along and there will be revisions. So, I think there's a lot of confusion too with those revisions that they can, once I accept the application, you can't go in and make changes online. So anything that is asked of you to revise, you'll have to send that directly to me because I, as an administrator, can go in and switch out those documents. So I think that sometimes confuses, I always try to put that in the email, but sometimes, we're human, we overlook. But yeah, so it's all routed through me.
Yeah. So again, that's why she's your best friend in all this. But the other key thing to talk, not only know yourself, but your students is to keep an eye on the emails.
Yeah, right.
At least,
And
she's got-
respond to them in a timely manner.
It's just,
because
yeah,
if you
the
take
quicker you do it. the quicker-
time to respond to those revisions, then, it's gonna take time once the reviewer sees those, because sometimes they can't drop everything and review it that very day, so, it's all time.
And they're trying to, a lot of times they're trying to meet deadlines with,
Correct.
have to do this in order to graduate, like my son is trying to do something. You don't want to hear about that. But it's not IRP, but, okay, so, but yeah, and again, email, calls. Okay, so, and Lisa mentioned a little bit about this, some final notes. So reviewed on an ongoing 2 weeks following department chair approval. Contact by email, allowed only for projects involving not greater than no risk. And then, of course, the full review, those are reviewed during a committee meeting. Lisa sets up that meeting schedule at the beginning of the semester. And for the IRB, have it on their calendar, obviously, and then we just cancel if there are none. But,
And here in the last little while, we've kind of just been,
yeah,
because we have such, we don't really receive a lot of full reviews in here. We kind of just schedule it
You just
as
have one
needed.
the other day.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, we
no,
did
that's
have
true,
it.
yeah.
in February, first of February.
So, but just know that the other two categories, just to roll, you send them whenever you got, whenever.
Summer,
So, yeah,
whenever.
so we're here to serve. And I think that's what we had, so. Ready to apply, you have questions, whatever, if you, anything else, so. Again, the website, we're all gonna get used to that, at least when I was talking about it, everything, when it gets new, it's kind of. But after a while, I'll be like, oh, I don't even remember the last one, so. But we're working on it, it's pretty good, it's got almost everything out to you. But just know it's there, the links, the city training, the info ready. But obviously, just get us involved whenever, however you want to. We'll be happy to help.
Happy to help.
Okay, any other question? Guys?
I have a question, couple questions.
Yeah.
What about using data from your students that you teach, like classroom data or assignment data or, gosh, like evaluation data?
Assessment data.
Right.
Like general education assessment,
Yes.
or program assessment.
Right. Are you asking, do you need IRB approval?
Yeah,
of it? You shouldn't for your own, evaluations. Is
So
this
if like my
pre-
students are doing a particular assignment, and I want to over time collect like how they completed it or maybe evaluation of that assignment, what might that?
Okay, so that, it depends on how you spend that, but that would probably go under category 1 of exemption with the classroom environment. because you're not introducing anything new. But if you're just comparing some type of technique, that would fall under category 1 of exemption.
It seems like I had a IRB that was good for like 2 or 3 years for looking at that classroom.
I was gonna
data.
say exemption, once it's approved, it's valid for 3 years.
Okay,
But you are using this to then, for generalizable knowledge.
yeah, for presentation or
Okay.
publication.
Okay, that's-
Okay,
purposes.
yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
then, yes,
But if you were just
you're
evaluating.
just doing it.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Okay, yeah.
To
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
disseminate,
Gotcha.
okay.
Yeah, key is that, you know, if you keep it in-house, and you're just trying to teach your students something, it's obviously. But as soon as we're gonna get it out to the world, we gotta protect it. Good question. What else?
And I think it's also a matter of informing students of the fact that you're gonna be using it for research purposes.
Yeah. I think we gave them an opt-out, so
No.
they were like automatically opted in unless they signed something
Oh,
that sound,
Well, I think Kentucky, you know, in terms of, I think probably all IRBs are different, but the opt-out isn't really seen as necessarily valid consent. But I have seen that done, but with exempt studies, it's not, you're not required to have, and of course, we don't want you to have handwritten signatures on, because that negates anonymity, but with exempt study, it's not required to have that formal informed consent form with signatures anyway. That's not required, but yes, you are, it's important to let them know that there's a study and inform them about the study.
Lisa,
Of course, if you're using data from like last year and at that time you hadn't decided you were gonna do
Right.
this
Well,
study,
that's-
you know, you wouldn't have told them. But if you know ahead of time, like, well, I'm gonna use data from this semester, then you can put a, you know, a statement on your exam or whatever. This problem will be used for assessment and research purposes or, you know, what have you. I've done that kind of thing before.
One of the challenges of solo research, right, scholarship of teaching and learning is you don't know.
yeah, I did this, Mike.
You're like, oh, last year, oh man, I did this and now I'm gonna do something different. So I wish, can I use last year's data as an archive? Seems, you know, like,
But then you could check, you know, on your application, you could do category 1 and category
Yes.
4 to use the secondary data.
Right.
So. You need to use previous that you didn't expect.
what about, using child data that has previously been collected, be it by a teacher or something like that?
Well, again, I mean, as long as there are no identifiers, would you have any links to those? Then, yeah, that would be just secondary data analysis.
Okay.
One thing I like to recommend is that, after you, right after you submit, it's not a bad idea to just send a message to your, chair or unit head and give them a heads up, because those people get lots and lots of emails. And,
Especially the psychology.
Yeah.
chair.
yes,
Especially,
I feel like I'm constantly Jamie Henning, Jamie Henning.
I bet.
great point. Okay. Anything else?
nothing.
We got two folks, yeah. Well, we thank Alan for coming and Teresa. And obviously contact us if you need us and. Yes. Now you're working with someone else or no? Who was the other person on the email? Yeah.
Kristen,
Are you,
yeah. we're working on
sorry,
this.
yeah, I thought Ted said you're all the way. Yeah. Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you. All right, good luck with the snow.